Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Chris, what do we have in November?
What do we have? Yeah, well, so as I mentioned earlier, I went to Cardiff. So I thought, Matt, I'd take you back to Cardiff. Because you've been to Cardiff a fair old time ago now. So let's go back, let's hang out with the Torchwood folk.
Oh, okay.
And let's read Pack Animals by Peter Anghelides.
Huh. Have we read anything by him before? I don't know.
We've read short stories by him.
Okay.
And of course, as well as long-term listeners will know, he interviewed me. In another series of the Chris has awkward encounters with Doctor Who authors. I might well recount that story later.
Cool. Well, for November then, Pack Animals by Peter Anghelides.
Yes. And also, for clarity, interviewed me as in interviewed me for a job rather than interviewed me for kind of any Doctor Who stuff.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I'm thinking, I best just clarify, yeah.
Awesome.
That's available in eBook. It's not available in audiobook, from what I can see, and I'm sure it will probably be lurking in various libraries and the like, so hopefully you might be able to find a copy if you don't have one.
Excellent.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
Pretty well, Chris. It's autumn here. I'm excited for election season to be over. Hopefully by the time this comes out, it will be, but we shall see.
Who knows? I remember being in a room with Bill Clinton the day after Bush v. Gore had been decided.
Oh, what was the circumstances for that?
He was visiting my university and was giving a speech. So when I say a room, like we were not just kind of like sitting and chatting. He was, I was very much at the back of a lecture theatre. It was kind of weird though. But yeah. And I also met Stephen Hawking that day, who I did actually have a kind of like a conversation with.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, right, that's enough of Chris's random name dropping. I wasn't expecting to go into that, sorry.
We have a bit of book news to share.
Yes.
Doctor Who magazine issue 609 has an exclusive Target book attached to it, the novelization of The Evil of the Daleks repeat, so the one with Zoe watching what Victoria got up to, which is by Fraser Hines with Steve Cole and Mike Tucker contributing. So that's a free Target book that comes with that issue, if that's still on shelves at all. Mm-hmm. And then December 5th sees Harry Sullivan's War finally getting an audiobook release, and it's read by Christopher Naylor, who plays Harry for Big Finish. No word if Mark Strickson is hard at work recording an audio version of Turlo and the Earthlink Dilemma or not.
Yes. From memory, one of those books I found more enjoyable than the other. And that's the one that's being recorded.
And finally, we have, it looks like, 4 new Target novels are coming on the horizon, due out on July 10th, which will likely be after Ncuti Gatwa's second series airs.
Yeah.
And assuming most of these or all of these will be 15th Doctor stories, but if not, do you have any new series stories that you'd like to see a Target novelization of that haven't had one yet?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a toughie. Maybe, I think Asylum of the Daleks hasn't been, has it?
I don't think so, no.
No, that might be an interesting one. Human Nature. Human Nature from the point of view of Martha. There we go.
Yeah, you could even have Paul Cornell do that. And, you know, if they're novelizing Evil of the Daleks twice, why not Human Nature?
Yeah. There we go. I came out with that completely off the cuff, but I'm starting to think that's not a crazy idea. How about you?
For me, I would say probably Flux would be great, and Chris Chibnall has stated that he would love to novelize it when I saw him at Galley a few years ago.
Okay.
And then I'd also like to see Thin Ice novelized,
Yes.
and also perhaps Orphan 55, just to put that in its proper context, and I think it would make for a fun novel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or maybe also like The Timeless Child and Villa and Dorandati, or however you pronounce it, but not in that order. In the order it was aired. That might be interesting.
Yeah, or Fugitive of the Jadun would be good too, I think.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Cool. Right. So I think we are now at the show and tell stage of proceedings. And Matt, what do you have for us?
So I have in hand 2 new action dollies from Character Options.
Yay!
These are the Vortex edition of the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday. And I think they're wearing what they wore in Church on Ruby Road, but not 100% sure. Yeah, okay. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Ruby wearing a red jumper, and then Shooty in his long coat and kind of orange undershirt. And the 15th Doctor comes with psychic paper, which is a first for this accessory, which is crazy to think because it goes all the way back to the 9th Doctor. And his new kind of oddly shaped sonic screwdriver. And also a landmine from Boom, which is a little bit incongruous with the outfit he's wearing, but that's okay. Yeah, and then, Ruby, not to be outdone, comes with her purse and a smartphone with a red case. And the likenesses look really good for Shooty and okay for Millie. She kind of only works at certain angles. And one of the things about these figures in particular is that there are no visible pin joints, which is good, although the 15th Doctor seems to have come down with a rather severe skin condition on the sides of his neck due to the molding process. And probably not going to get the standard versions come with different jumpers and I think fewer accessories, but glad I got these to kind of round out my line. I always try to have at least, one of every Doctor. So yeah. How about you?
For me, I am going to go for FantasyCon, which happened in Chester this year, and I had the honour of moderating a panel on Doctor Who. Is it science or is it fantasy, or science fiction or is it fantasy? And that was great fun with a wonderful array of panelists. I think we did fall down on the idea of it being science fiction. It was, but like things like Battlefield was raised. I was unexpectedly confronted by a copy of Shroud of Sorrow that had been borrowed from Galway Library by one of the panelists. And so we got into a little bit of a discussion about that, because I said, it looks like it's being kind of like a science fiction novel and everything, dealing with themes of grief, and then you go to a planet populated by clowns. So, if you are tempted by that episode, then you can listen to that in our back catalogue.
If the author had just divided it into 2 parts and called them tragedy and comedy, and had the face masks or whatever, the comedy dell'arte sort of thing, and I think that would have made it work a lot better with just that little tweak. But
and we spoke about Battlefield, and a great discussion. I also, speaking of Battlefield, I found myself on a panel about Arthurian myth, where I was kind of like one of the speakers. But I was also the only person who was not a published author or researcher in Arthurian folklore. I was like, Chris, why are you here? My dad was Cornish. I've watched Merlin, but I spoke about Once and Future King, which is a fantastic graphic novel series by Kieran Gillen, which is kind of worth your time. It involves Arthur being resurrected, but he is wanting to get rid of the invaders, and he regards the invaders as being Anglo-Saxons.
Does that have any relation to the Patrick Stewart film that came out?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Don't think so. It's great seeing Arthur as a zombie king who is inherently evil that people are having to deal with and put back in a box. And ended up having a conversation with Simon Clarke, who wrote one of our novellas that we discussed last month, which was The Dalek Factor. He was doing a launch of his latest book because he was preparing for the launch. Lauren dragged me into the room because she'd met him before and sort of said, "Here, have a chat to Chris." Yeah, so that was kind of slightly nerve-wracking, but Simon is lovely.
And more on him later, perhaps.
Yes, indeed. More on him later. But yeah, so it was great fun. And Chester is very much a Roman city. And so there are, in the hotel, Roman artifacts or kind of replicas throughout, which gave a wonderful, fantastical sense to proceedings. So enjoyed my time, and I spotted that Telos Publishing had been there because they'd left some of their leaflets on a kind of like a table of general leafleting. But I didn't see who the Telos reps were. But then I would recognise David J. Howe on sight. I don't think I'd recognise Stephen James Walker, but so I suspect it might have been him.
Very cool.
Good fun.
So this month we are reviewing Pack Animals.
Yes.
By Peter Anghelides.
Yes.
And this is the final of our in-between Doctor Cycle books before we kick off a new cycle next month.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of seeing what the Torchwood gang have been up to lately.
Yes, indeed. Well, by lately.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
15 years ago, maybe.
Even so, yeah. Oh, gosh.
So can you tell us about Peter, Chris?
Yeah, so Peter Anghelides, he starts out very much in fan writing. He's been published in a few decalogues and BBC books. He wrote Kursaal and Frontier Worlds and The Ancestor Cell, that one with Stephen Cole, for the Eighth Doctor Adventures, and also wrote on Torchwood Pack Animals and Another Life. And did various short trips. We've read him before in the short trips with Future Doctor. He's retired now, but he used to work for a major IT multinational where he interviewed me when I was applying for an internship.
And I noticed some of the IT stuff make their way into this book when he talks about like computer networks and like scattering USB drives in the parking lot and those types of things. Yeah,
you can tell that there's someone who is IT literate has written the book. As I think I've said before, Peter read out my full name with, like, I have two middle names. He read the whole thing out to kind of like summon me. He called me Christopher as well. I assumed that was a trick to try to put me off guard. Listen, it succeeded, but I ended up getting the role anyway. But I'd never met him again.
I've met him a couple of times myself at Gallifrey.
Did he read out your names?
No.
No.
Yeah, I ran into him like at the tail end of a Blake 7 panel. I think he's a big fan of that series.
He is, yeah.
So this is the 7th of 19 to date Torchwood novels published. It was originally published in October of 2008 as part of the third wave of Torchwood books, which were published in groups of 3, similar to how Doctor Who were being published. And this story takes place during season 2, after Owen's death/resurrection, but before Gwen and Reese's wedding, placing it between A Day in the Death and Something Borrowed. And it consists of a prologue and 24 untitled chapters.
Okay, and so we'll start off with it nearly being Halloween. When I realised that this was a book that was set right about Halloween, I thought, excellent.
The timing definitely lined up as I was reading this on Halloween evening.
So, and we are in Cardiff, encountering Miss Bullivant, who is a sacristan?
I would say a nun or
a nun or some sort of, at Holy Innocents Church. She is arguing that the father of the church, Father Ninian, should use his next sermon to address the matter of children playing with icons of demons and monsters. I'll also just say a little bit about Father Ninian. I suspect that his name is a bit of a nod to the Cardiff City Football Club's old ground, Ninian Park. Because I don't think there are too many Ninians wandering around. So we are going to go into this month's reading, but what I will just say is a little bit of a content warning.
In keeping with Torchwood's adult themes.
So there's an implication that the father of this church adhered to, shall we say, stereotypical activities of that have sometimes appeared in the news. So if that feels like something that you don't want to hear, you can skip forward about 5 or 6 minutes. But that would mean that you would miss the wonderful reading by Alexandra Beaumont, who is this one's guest reader. Alex Beaumont is a fantasy writer. She tends to write folklore. You can find her on Twitter at a Beaumont Writer. And out now is A Dissonance of Birdsong, which is her novel, and you will often see her at various fantasy cons. So, yes, in particular, I've seen her twice in the last month. So, shall we have a listen?
Yeah, let's.
Father Ninian frowned. He preferred penitence to wait outside until he had settled himself in place in the confessional box. It wouldn't do to peer too obviously through the grill. He kissed and positioned his stole, muttered his words of prayer, and said softly, "Yes, my child?" It sounded like a chuckle from beyond the grill. "My child," repeated a young man's voice. Father Ninian hoped it wasn't another Saturday morning drunk. He leaned towards the grill. There was no smell of alcohol, just the dusty veil and the cherry wood frame. "How long is it since your last confession?" "Forgive me, Father," said the soft voice, "for you have sinned." Now Father Ninian did peer directly through the grill. He saw a figure in an orange Cardiff United shirt. The unblinking green eyes stared back, so shockingly direct that the priest flinched away. He knew this boy. No longer a boy, of course. He was. Who? Father Ninian's mind reeled as he tried to compose his thoughts. One of his altar servers from 8 years ago? Perhaps more. Gary or Gareth or Graham. Gareth. It was Gareth. Must be in his 20s now. How could he have forgotten Gareth? "You're not going to forgive me," Gareth said coldly. Father Ninian fiddled with his trouser leg. He couldn't leave now. He'd barely been in here 2 minutes. What would the Wendells think? "It's not me who forgives you, my son. I absolve you in the name of—" "I don't want your absolution." "You could have sought penance at any church. Why choose the Holy Innocents?" "Holy Innocents?" Another snort of laughter. "You're not wholly innocent yourself, are you, Father?" He rattled the partition between them. "I've brought you this." A piece of coloured card was pushed through the side of the grill. It was like a large playing card, the size of a paper sheet folded in half. Father Ninian plucked it from the frame and studied it quizzically. His question died on his lips when he heard the fizzing noise, like a match being struck. Absurdly, the priest's first thought was of health and safety regulations that forbade smoking inside the building, but still allowed his altar boys to light a thurible and wave incense around the church. A bright flare of illumination filled the confessional. The priest felt his heart pound. The place was ablaze with light. In the confined space, a squat human shape was forming before his eyes, dark against a brilliance brighter than the rose window. No, not human. Now he could see a monster in a human form. Rags loosely covered its creased leathery hide. A skein of scraggy hair tufted around a snarling face of deep-set eyes and a drooling mouth. Its forehead was marked with deep wrinkles, brutal furrows scribbled across its brow. The enclosed space filled with its foul stench. "Oh God!" cried Father Ninian. "As usual," said Gareth's calm voice. "God has nothing to do with it." Father Ninian choked a scream. The creature cocked its hideous head and turned its attention to him. It seized him in one savage moment and raked the flesh off his face and neck with its sharp teeth. The priest shrieked and slipped from its grasp. He squirmed beneath its straddling legs, through the curtain and out onto the parquet of the aisle. Mrs. Wendell craned her neck out of her overcoat and stared down at him like a startled turtle. Inside the confessional, the monster lurched to left and right in a furious attempt to escape from its wooden prison. The curtain wrenched aside and the creature loomed in the frame, bellowing. The Wendells fled. Father Ninian scrambled backwards down the side aisle, too terrified to decide whether to waste time trying to stand. The creature slammed 2 pews aside. Beyond it, the priest could see Gareth swiftly but calmly walking away into the shadows at the rear of the church. "Gareth, help me," pleaded Father Ninian. Gareth's orange football shirt continued to move away. The young man's calm voice floated back in the church echoes. "Help you? I can't even forgive you." Just as Father Ninian reached the altar rail, the monster reached Father Ninian.
Thank you, Alex, so much for reading that.
Yeah, thank you.
And this isn't the first time we've read something by this author set in a confessional booth. There's a Missy short story,
Oh, yes.
also by Peter Anghelides, where I think her TARDIS is disguised as the confessional. So no more using confessionals, Peter. You've done it twice now.
Yes. Outside kind of the church, Jack and Yanto are tracing an energy spike. And they're trying to avoid the attentions of a investigative reporter, David Brigstock. And David Brigstock believes that Torchwood was somehow involved in the death of his friend Rodri.
Which I tried looking up, but I didn't. I was thinking, oh, is this a character who was killed in a previous episode? But I didn't. If there is a reference to an actual, like, on-screen character, I couldn't find it.
Yeah. And when they see a weevil run out of the church, Yanto gives chase whilst Jack enters the church. And inside, he finds that Father Ninian has been savaged to death and is clutching a Monster Quest playing card with a picture of a weevil on it. So Monster Quest is some kind of like top... Well, can we say this? It's kind of like a top trumps, as we would say in the UK. I don't know.
I have a few of those sets that I've imported, but yeah, it's not as well known over here.
Well, I don't know what they're called in the States.
Also not unlike, say, Magic the Gathering or any other, collectible card game.
That kind of thing. Yes, very much that kind of thing. But this Monster Quest playing card has a weevil on it. Okay. This is not a coincidence. Meanwhile, Yanto, he's been chasing the weevil, but he's not been able to catch up to it. And he returns to the church to find that David Brigstock, the reporter, has followed Jack inside the church. But Jack and Yanto give him the slip, whilst David Brigstock is comforting the sobbing Miss Bullivant, kind of like the nun type person from earlier.
And this journalist, Brigstock, he kind of is following Jack and Yanto throughout the story, kind of like one step behind on their trail throughout.
I think his name is possibly a nod to Marcus Brigstock, the British comedian who... Has Marcus Brigstock been in Doctor Who? I think he might have been.
Also, with this Monster Quest card game, the cards are also oversized. I think they're a little bit more like A5 sized, which isn't that common. But Gwen's holding a pack of the cards depicted on the cover, along with a tiger, which shows up in the narrative in a bit. Meanwhile, while Jack and Yanto are off chasing weevils in churches, Gwen and Reese are both at a nearby shopping mall.
Yes.
Which she's visiting to try on her wedding dress with her bridesmaid. And Reese is also visiting, even though he said he would stay away, with his best man known as Banana Boat to shop for some wedding supplies.
I don't think any explanation is given as to why it's called Banana Boat. Or is there?
There isn't. And I was intending to rewatch like the wedding episode to see if some of these characters actually show up in that story or are, referenced, but I ran out of time, so I didn't have a chance to do that. But I do like that this is set in the time period leading up to Gwen's wedding, as that seemed to have kind of come out of nowhere on the show proper, right after the Martha arc and Owen's death. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of some of Dave Rudden's short stories, where you're picking interesting times to set your story, where there's additional stuff to unpack, whether that's dealing with a loss or preparing for a celebratory event. So I did appreciate that piece of it. So yeah, Reese is shopping with Banana Boat, and he and Banana part company, promising to meet up at the Millennium Stadium later, I think, for a football game.
Yeah.
And I think this whole story takes place in about the span of like 12 hours or so.
Yeah.
like, or at least within a day, because
We're in a day or two, yeah.
a lot is kind of happening. And Reese is looking for a gag gift for his best man, and while he's doing so, he glimpses a commotion caused by what seems to be a teenager wearing a Halloween mask. But Reese should really know better by this point, because this is another Weevil. And thinking no more of it, he continues on to a game shop where he encounters a party of college students who are in the middle of a Monster Quest tournament. And the game's toothsome monster very much resembles Gwen's description of a Weevil. And I think Reese may have met Janet in the basement of Torchwood by this point, although I can't remember if his mind was erased from that encounter. But Reese decides to buy a pack of cards for Banana, of these Monster Quest cards, and as he does so, the mall's fire alarms go off and everyone in the store is forced to evacuate.
Yeah. Elsewhere in the mall, Gwen is forced to ditch her friend Megan and give chase when she sees a Weevil running through a crowd of shoppers. We then encounter young Jenny Bolton, who sees the creature and assumes that it's a teenager wearing a Halloween mask, and she photographs it with her mobile phone, and then it suddenly vanishes. Two more Weevils then tear through the crowd, slashing at the shoppers with their talons. Jenny is forced through two fire doors while fleeing from the panic stampede, and in the mall's service corridors, she's attacked by a giant bat-like creature that has already killed one of the Weevils. Jenny inadvertently presses her mobile speed dial whilst she's dying, and this calls her mother Shona, who is on a bus heading to the mall. When Shona takes the call from her now, I think, dead daughter, the Weevil that Jenny had photographed materialises in a blaze of light on the bus and slashes its way up to the front of the bus, where it kills the driver. And the bus swerves out of control and crashes into a construction site near the Withington Hotel and Wendelby's department store. So it's pretty horrific.
Yeah, and the bus attack scene goes on for some time, and reminded me a little bit of like the fight sequence in Shang-Chi, that Marvel movie where you have like a bus with it's like a join in the middle that kind of curves.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
Yeah, a bendy bus.
Yeah, a whole sequence set around that.
Yeah.
And
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
The narrative does an interesting thing where, almost like a narrative trick, where scenes are overlapping. So we see Reese hearing the fire alarm in the mall, and then we get that same thing from Gwen's perspective, but her scene starts earlier. And it's not every chapter that does this, but it's like almost like a mini rewind in time where you take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back.
Yeah.
And kind of see things from another point of view, almost like in a
yes,
Kurosawa sort of perspective.
Yes, yeah. That's what I was trying to think of, yeah.
So then Gwen arrives in the service quarter just in time to see a bat-like creature kill another Weevil, and she chases it to the parking garage where it vanishes in a blaze of light. So it got teleported away through the phone onto the bus. Yeah. And then Tosh arrives on the scene, and once they've ensured that Gwen's bridesmaid Megan is all right, they spread rumors that the attackers were skinheads with knives, and Tosh offers to take over so Gwen can try and enjoy the rest of her bridesmaid shopping day, her day off. And Gwen decides to return home, but Reese, when he accidentally mentions that he also was at the mall, she loses her temper and throws the pack of Monster Quest cards back at him, and she calms down and explains that she was upset by the thought that Reese could have been killed during the incident there, which he wasn't even really aware of because he was like leaving the mall as it was happening. But as she helps him pick up the scattered cards, she notices the toothsome card and realizes that it really is a Weevil. And no one outside of Torchwood should really know about the Weevil's existence. So how did one appear as a fictional monster on a pack of playing cards? And we learned some interesting details about the Weevils too, including like what they eat, which was quite disgusting. And I can't recall if that was originally mentioned on the show or not, but suffice it to say, there's a reason they live in the sewers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I blocked that from my mind or if this is a detail that Peter added.
Yeah.
Or what. But...
Yeah. So we cut to Owen who's been investigating a rash of skin complaints originating from the Withington Hotel, and he's determined that they're the results of a fairly bog standard skin infection, and realizes it's being spread by a Vrdosian chambermaid posing as an Eastern European immigrant. And there's quite a fun scene where it's sort of like said that she looks like a hedgehog, like is it Tiddlywinkle or from Beatrix Potter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a nice little bit of humour.
Almost like porcupine quills, not unlike the characters in Class when their perception filters aren't working.
Yes. And then the bus that has Shona, the mother of the now murdered teenager, crashes outside the hotel as Owen is preparing to kind of capture this chambermaid, and he lets her off with a warning and goes outside to help the injured. One of the passengers is a student named Olwyn, who is on his way to the Monster Quest tournament at the mall, and he's in a state of shock. And Owen has to pry the playing cards out of his hand and force him out of the bus of his friends. And like this guy keeps on saying about how valuable the playing cards are. He also meets Shona, the mother from earlier, and she's been fatally injured. And when Owen picks up the phone, he's surprised to hear Tosh on the other end. And then the line suddenly goes dead. There's actually quite a harrowing scene where he and others are just talking with Shona, and they know that she's not going to make it, and they're not wanting to tell her, and it's quite moving. But yeah, so the Weevil is still trapped at the front of the bus, but it becomes kind of like cowed and tame when Owen approaches.
Which I had forgotten that the dead version of Owen is kind of like a king of the Weevils or whatever, where they recognize that he's not right, and or shouldn't be there, and they don't attack in that case.
Yeah. And emergency vehicles then arrive on the scene, and it becomes spooked, and the Weevil runs off. And then Owen notices a Monster Quest advertising poster over the wreck of the storefront, and compares the toothsome on the poster to the card that he'd confiscated from Olwyn, and comes to the same conclusion as Gwen. And when he tries to call Tosh, however, he gets a recorded message from a company called Ackenbright. Ackenbright, apologising for the inconvenience. So he's not able to get hold of Tosh for some reason. But I do wonder, is Monster Quest as a game, is it very localised to Cardiff? And like, how has it mounted such a huge advertising campaign?
Yeah, that seems a little odd because they mentioned later on that like there was one shop that was supposed to be the exclusive dealer, and it had started out locally, but now that it has like bus advertisements and stuff.
Yeah.
Throughout all of these sequences, you very much get the sense that these events are interconnected, and there is a lot of coincidence where people just happen to be in the right place at the right time, with like Owen getting the phone call from Tosh and stuff, and some of that also has to do with the fast forwarding and rewinding of time in the narrative, because we see it from Owen's perspective before Tosh actually makes the phone call from her perspective. And so back at the mall, Tosh is posing as a security consultant from the head office because she wants to erase the CCTV footage. And it's kind of interesting how much of Torchwood's time is really spent cleaning things up after the fact.
Yeah.
Whether that's, gathering and erasing video footage or disposing of Weevil bodies or whatever. You'd never really get that whole cleanup element in Doctor Who, where the Doctor just kind of moves along to the next adventure. And I do think it's clever of the author to use some of these moments of downtime to do like a variety of things, like either furthering the plot by uncovering a clue. Sometimes they'll have conversations reveal some like depth or detail for the personalities of the series regulars. So it is just kind of an interesting thing I noted, in terms of like the Doctor doesn't stick around to clean up the messes, so to speak. So Tosh convinces the mall manager, whose name is Lloyd Maddock, to show her the CCTV footage of the attack from earlier. But on their way to the security suite, Tosh finds Jenny Bolton's body, and when she picks up Jenny's mobile phone, she's surprised to hear Owen on the other end before the line goes dead. And Maddock leads Tosh to the security suite and faints when he sees that someone or something has slaughtered the two guards on duty and smashed its way out of the office. Tosh then follows the trail of damage up to the roof, where she sees that bat creature that Gwen had saw earlier preparing to launch itself at some of the shoppers milling about in the parking lot below. Tosh manages to attract its attention by shooting at it, and she damages one of its wings, but the bat overpowers her before she can kill it, and it knocks her unconscious. And as she passes out, she sees a group of men wearing boiler suits marked with an Akenbright company logo arrive on the roof and spray the bat creature with something that causes it to shrink to a safely containable size, which reminded me of another card game, Pokemon. And
Yes.
like the shrinking and collecting of these creatures.
Yes. Yeah, I forget of Pokemon as a card game. I always just think of it more as a computer game series. But yeah. So Gwen returns to the mall with Reese and finds Tosh suffering from mild concussion. And Tosh takes Gwen to the wreckage of the security suite, where they discover the scattered plants that Tosh thought were decorations are in fact alien and are growing out of shattered monitors. So they piece the events together and realise that the bat creature was somehow transmitted to the security suite through the CCTV cameras in the parking garage, which feels very kind of Weeping Angels. Tosh returns to the hub whilst Gwyn and Reese question Dylan, the owner of the game shop, and he's in a foul mood as his partner Gareth, the man who designed Monster Quest, has just walked out on him to strike a more lucrative deal with the department store. As Dylan raves angrily, a nearby Monster Quest card depicting a fire monster bursts into flame, and the fire monster itself emerges from the card to attack them. And the monster burns away to nothing within seconds, and Gwen and Reese get the shaken Dylan, understandably shaken, to safety as the rest of the shop goes up in flames. And they promise to tell the police that the fire was an accident and that Dylan didn't burn it down for insurance. But on condition that he tells them how to contact Gareth.
The reveal about a quarter into the book, when we start seeing these characters from Akenbright, that did help the novel for me a bit, because I was thinking we'd just be following Gareth around with his pack of cards. He was the character from the prologue, who's kind of going on this revenge tour and seeing what monsters he conjures up next and how they're going to harm innocent bystanders.
Yeah.
But having that added element of the company kind of collecting these monsters and removing them added a bit of complexity and unpredictability to the narrative, which I felt like the book really kind of needed at this point. So I was glad that that happened.
Yes, though I would also say it didn't feel as a surprise that something like that would come along. It did feel to me as if it was a bit like, okay, all right, we're going down this variation of this kind of story. But anyway, right, slightly showing my hand. As,
So Jack and Yanto have gone to Torlanau. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm sure.
It's not real, so pronounce it how you like.
Oh, okay. I had assumed with so many Welsh, character names and places, I didn't realize that I was just assuming like, oh, this is just a tour of Cardiff sort of deal.
No. Oh, most of them are made up in this. So Torlan, I think, means river. So it's kind of like it's the river zoo. And I think Cardiff Zoo might be near a river, but yeah. If you Google many of the places in this, they don't exist.
Okay.
Yes.
So Yanto and Jack have gone to the zoo, partially to investigate further rift activity and partially as just going on a date. And they pass an elderly man named Walter and his wife. They hear screaming from the big cat's enclosure and investigate to find a Bengal tiger has apparently escaped and mauled the zookeeper named Malcolm Berkeley to death. However, the enclosure is soaked as if by a torrential rain, and another keeper named Bethan claims that the concrete wall that separates the enclosure from the visitors area vanished into thin air a few moments before and then returned. Yanto and Jack see faint cracks in the wall, as if it's been replaced or set down in a slightly different position, which supports Bethan's story, and they find an alien device nearby buried in the mud. The escaped tiger then charges past them and knocks itself senseless on the glass, trying to get away from a two-headed dragon that was the cause of Malcolm the zookeeper's death. And Jack identifies this monster as a brackeny, which had already killed another...
Well, one of the couple.
Yeah, one of the members of the couple. And it mauls Jack when he tries to distract it, nearly severing Jack's leg. And again, we see some men coming through wearing these Akenbright boiler suits, which arrive on the scene and try to incapacitate the dragon with their shrinking spray. Yanto, meanwhile, tries to recover the alien device while the strangers are distracted, but one of the men sees him and runs forward, warning him that this defense system he's trying to tamper with is still active. However, he's too late, and Yanto's knocked senseless when the device explodes. And neither he nor Jack know how these events were caused by Gareth, who had visited the zoo earlier that day using a set of these Monster Quest cards to exact revenge on Malcolm for bullying him during his teenage work experience at the zoo. Malcolm had locked him in a cage with a tiger, but there was an inner cage, but he didn't let Gareth know about that, and it was a thing, like a hazing ritual.
A prank, yeah.
Yeah, that all the work experience kids got exposed to, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've never worked at a zoo. I don't know whether that's kind of standard practice, but yeah, I think this is why it's a fictitious zoo. So nobody starts suing anyone. So Gwen and Rhys follow Dylan's directions to a house in Rowena, which is an actual real suburb of Cardiff. One of the very few real things in this book. And they arrive to find that the house is on fire. And there's a nosy neighbour with the wonderful name of Mrs. Stackpole. And very Dickensian. And Mrs. Stackpole claims that the house was struck by lightning, whilst Gareth was arguing with his now presumably deceased girlfriend. But she falls silent in shock when a three-eyed alien Diplodocus...
Or Diplodocus.
Diplodocus, anyway. Dinosaur-y type thing. Bursts out of the burning house. And Gwen uses her mobile to send a photo of the creature to Tosh. The creature vanishes into thin air as she does so, because that's what seems to be happening. And then Gareth drives out of the garage in a red Ford Mondeo. I had to laugh at that point. I was like, a brand name for something that is real. Because there's quite a few references to a fictitious football club, which then becomes a thing later on. Gwen and Rhys pursue him in Rhys's company Vectra. So you've got two reasonably priced cars in Top Gear speak chasing each other through the streets of Cardiff. Gareth speeds away, and he doesn't seem to be caring about the collateral damage he's inflicting along the way. And just as Gwen catches up to him, he holds up a Monster Quest card, causing the temperature around his car to plummet, and a lorry skids across the suddenly icy road and nearly hits Rhys's Vectra. But Gwen drives off the road and down to the river, which is frozen over, and Gareth's car makes it across the river, but Gwen crashes into a riverboat, which is slightly surprised at being the ice, and her car is then attacked by a mysterious alien dog called a Mahouta. Gwen shoots it in the head, and Rhys points out that it appears on a Monster Quest card as an antebellum, and the other cards in the pack include element cards, such as lightning, fog, and ice. And the sudden cold spell just suddenly wears off. Gwen and Rhys have to run for the riverbank as the ice melts, and the Vectra sinks into the river. Yeah, it's quite a wonderful sequence. I must say, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and they don't quite make it because I think Rhys falls through the ice at the end and has to wait out.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back in the hub, Tosh is forced to break out a lance from the armory. It's kind of a Gemalian lance. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't remember it being a thing. In order to kind of flash fry the three-eyed alien dinosaur that I can't pronounce, and materialised out of nowhere when Gwen phoned her. So, obviously when Gwen sent that message across. So the close call gets her thinking about her own mortality. And so she then records a message to her teammates to be played back in case of her death, which comes in handy in a later episode.
In just a few episodes from
yes,
here,
indeed.
In Exit Wounds, I think.
Yes,
When the Diplodocus appears in the Torchwood Hub, I felt sad when Tosh used the lance on the dinosaur, and I was hoping that the narrative may have given her maybe a twinge of guilt or regret for killing it. We do see the pterodon, the pterodactyl creature that lives in the hub and is sort of housebroken, although Yanto says he has to clean up after it quite a bit. Kind of landing on the Diplodocus and trying to peck its eyes out and trying to help kill it. So it was two dinosaur encounter in this book, I guess.
Yeah.
Another one of the Monster Quest cards, by the way, features a Hoix, which is the monster from Love and Monsters
Ah, okay.
that the Doctor and Rose are chasing.
Hmm.
So, kind of rewinding the narrative a little bit again,
Yes.
Owen heads to the zoo, pulling rank on the paramedics, and sits with Jack until he revives from death. And you get a nice little scene where Owen's dead, waiting for Jack, who's also dead, to wake up. And we learn that Owen isn't able to, he has limited senses, right? So he doesn't have the sense of touch, taste, or smell, which I didn't realize or had forgotten that was the case.
Yeah, that certainly it adds. I was like, I can't remember whether that was made clear in the TV show, but it makes his state less cartoony, I would say, and adds a bit of depth to him.
Yeah, and Jack's leg that was nearly severed is still reattaching itself.
I mean, it's hanging literally by threads, isn't it?
Of like cartilage and stuff.
Yeah.
And the Acton-Bright man who confronted Yanto was apparently cut in half by the explosion. However, when Owen examines the body more closely, he discovers that the lower half of him is still in fact there, but is just invisible. Owen arranges for the body to be sent to the hub, while Tosh scans recent CCTV footage from the area and discovers that Achenbright recently used its spray to round up a pack of dogs that had escaped from a breeding kennel. And then the reporter from earlier, Bridgestock, winds up on the scene and confronts Owen and Jack, having followed Jack and Yanto to the zoo from the church earlier. And this reporter witnessed the dragon attack and is convinced that Torchwood is somehow responsible. And he sarcastically asks if they're keeping a flying unicorn here as well. And the reporter refuses to leave them alone, but a police officer behind him reacts as if he's just been struck. And as he and his colleagues turn on the protesting reporter, Jack's wheelchair suddenly rolls away by itself. A moment later, someone bends down and kisses Jack, which is how Yanto manages to convey to Jack that he survived the explosion and has become invisible. Yanto still has his voice, so he could have just started talking too. But I think that was to like
dramatic effect.
Yeah, and the whole Yanto turning invisible thing, I didn't see that coming.
No. No. So Owen examines the invisible Yanto as best he can back at the hub, but in revenge for all the dead jokes that Yanto has made over the days and weeks of late, Owen doesn't let Yanto know that he can get dressed until the invisible Yanto has walked naked around the hub for several minutes. And Gwen returns to the hub without Reese, who's gone home for a shower, and the team gather in the boardroom to discuss the events of the day. So Yanto is sat there in the boardroom, stark naked.
And Yanto's clothes also turn invisible and are somewhere in the hub, but that's a thread that kind of gets forgotten about.
Yes.
So there's still an invisible set of clothes somewhere in the hub, and maybe they can fashion it into an invisibility cloak or something.
Yeah, maybe. So Tosh theorizes there must be a connection between the list of Monster Quest enemies and the list of alien creatures in the device that the team had recently recovered from an archaeological dig in Tunpath Castle in Robina, near Gareth's home. And they have named it the Vandrogonite Visualizer since they found it in the possession of a Vandrogon. And it can be accessed telepathically and forms an empathic link with its operator. And the Monster Quest cards seem to become active when somebody nearby is in a heightened emotional state, which seems to be everyone in Cardiff. Achenbright turns out to be a shell company that was once owned by the late Henry John Parker, who I think appears in A Day in the Death. And its head officers are suspiciously devoid of even background rift activity, as if it's shielded from the hub's sensors. And its CEO, Jennifer Portland, is the mysterious Gareth's mother. When Tosh looks into Gareth's background, she realises that he's connected to several people who've recently died in mysterious circumstances, such as Father Ninian and Malcolm Berkeley. If Gareth is using another visualizer, perhaps the empathic link works both ways, and using the device is causing his own emotions to become stronger.
And Tosh accesses Achenbright's security by planting that key logging software on lost USB keys in the parking lot. However, since Akenbright has already proven capable of blocking Torchwood's comm systems, the team decides that Invisible Yanto is the only one who can get in unnoticed. And Yanto's also very hungry because he hasn't been allowed to eat anything because that could show up as visible. So Yanto, naked, walks into Akenbright and finds the corridors full of drifting sand and alien flowers that spit dart-like seeds at him as he passes. And some of these alien flowers and plants were also present at the scenes of some of the other monster appearances.
Yeah.
Like Tosh was trying to grow a strand in Torchwood's arboretum, I guess, that they have. And several employees had been mauled to death in a conference room, and Yanto sees a pile of human and alien bodies in another suite.
Mm-hmm.
But before he can enter that suite, Jennifer Portland arrives with her sons Matt and Chris. So we made a cameo.
Yes, sorry about that.
And reveals that she can see him, and she uses a PDA, like a
past Doctor adventure. Yeah, a kind of like a personal device. So basically, the iPhone of its day, or the kind of tablet of its day. Yeah.
To restore Yanto's visibility. And as he covers himself with a nearby clipboard, she explains that she just saved his life as they had to pump toxic gas into that suite to deal with some of the attacking aliens.
Yeah.
Casual nudity in Torchwood. It fits the remit, I guess, of the program.
Well, it also fits Jack, doesn't it? It is Doctor Who appearances.
With all the violence depicted in this, it would have been nice if, Jack and Yanto may have taken a moment to take advantage of Yanto's unique condition to have a scene described or something, but that is not in narrative. I had to visualize that myself.
Right, fair enough. Okay. But yeah, so the Portlands let Gwen and Owen into the building, and they set up a conference call with Jack, admitting that the situation has gotten out of control. Yeah, somewhat, but some hostility develops between Jennifer and Jack over which of them is in charge and which is the interloper. Because it turns out that Akenbright has been collecting alien tech for quite some time and has successfully hidden both the tech and itself, its collections, from Torchwood. And Jennifer explains that her troubled son Gareth stole the visualizer and used its catalogue to create monsters for the card game that he developed. But it's become clear that the device is more than just a toy, and when Jennifer ordered her son to return it, he used it to set a Hoix and 2 Chantry golems loose in the building, slaughtering her staff. Yanto points out that the alien flowers here and in the mold security suite aren't actually part of the game, and he and Jack realise that the device isn't just a catalogue, but it's a terraforming device that could remake the Earth into the image of another planet. And then Tosh, meanwhile, picks up a significant local radio broadcast. David Brigstock, the investigative journalist from earlier, who I must say I'd slightly forgotten about by this stage, has been assigned to do a human interest piece and is reluctantly interviewing Italian supermodel Martina Baldacci, whose husband, Jacob, is playing football at the Millennium Stadium. So he is playing for FC Liguria, who are playing Cardiff United in a Champions League match. Both these teams are entirely fictitious.
And I had no idea reading it. I just assumed they were real teams.
Yeah, no. And also, Cardiff United are portrayed as playing in orange, and Cardiff City play in blue. Though also Cardiff City, round about this point, they were bought by an overseas owner who insisted that they change their colour to red, even though they were known as the Bluebirds, because he felt that red is a kind of like a lucky colour and would help them make more successful. And the fans turned up in arms and they went back to blue. So I did wonder whether Cardiff United playing in orange was kind of like a riff on that, but this book I think was written before any of that had happened. So you've got a Champions League game that is happening at the Millennium Stadium. Keep an eye on that. So Martina Baldacci, the supermodel, has purchased a pack of Monster Quest cards for her son from Gareth at the department store. And according to Tosh, the rift activity around the store is going off the scale.
And and that's the same football game that I think Reese was going to attend earlier. So
Yes.
I think this all takes place on the same day, like all on Gwen's day off.
Yeah.
So the Portlands, Jennifer and Matt and Chris, head to Wendelby's with the Torchwood operatives.
Yeah.
And Gwen and Owen try to question Martina, the Italian supermodel, who initially treats them with cold celebrity disdain until the undead Owen grips her face with his cold hands and demands to know where to find Gareth. However, Jennifer has already entered the store, intending to speak to her disturbed son before Torchwood can get to him. The main entrance had been blocked off due to the bus crash from earlier, but Jennifer gets past the police on duty, who's PC Andy, and his new partner, so it's nice that he gets a cameo, by using an alien device that caused them to suffer nausea when they look in her direction. And she accidentally drops the device once she gets inside the store, but continues on to the toy department. And there the bitter Gareth is sitting at his kiosk, ignored by most shoppers, except for 2 students who try to buy football tickets that Martina had just given to him. And when Gareth refuses, they jeer at him and knock over his display. And Jennifer arrives too late, and she's rushing forward, but alien monsters materialize in the toy department, set in attack mode by Gareth's emotions. And Jennifer begs Gareth to stop this attack, but he looks at her with dead eyes and tells her that he's not her son anymore. And as he walks away, giant insects descend on Jennifer from the ceiling and tear her apart. So Gareth's mom dies.
Yeah. Jack and Tosh arrive at the department store, where Tosh is slightly freaked out by the giant scary clowns in the Halloween display. While she's parking the SUV, Jack's looking for a way in, and David Brigstock, the reporter, spots him and offers to direct him to the toy department on condition that he is allowed to tag along. So Jack reluctantly agrees, and they arrive to see Owen and Gwen fighting alien gorillas and giant insects. And a shopper uses his cell phone to photograph one of the monsters, which vanishes before Owen can intervene. However, the other shoppers flee in terror when one of the insects tears apart an unfortunate sales assistant. Jack orders David Brigstock to jam the lifts so no one else can put themselves in danger. And Matt and Chris, us again, shrink the insects that have been eating their mother and step on them, causing the insects to die. And Jack sends the last of the monsters to the Torchwood vaults via his cell phone. And whilst Yanto deals out retcon juice to the somewhat devastated Portland boys, so Matt and Chris, Jack tries to figure out where Gareth's going to be heading. He knows that Gareth will need a large, emotionally excited crowd to power the visualizer. And David Brigstock points out that Gareth now has tickets to the football match at the Millennium Stadium, and the match is going to be broadcast on live television.
So Brigstock accompanies Jack and Tosh to the stadium, where Tosh hacks into the building's control systems to jam the entrances and close the retractable roof, keeping people out and the monsters in until Torchwood can deal with Gareth. And then she uses her own visualizer, which I can't remember where she got her own visualizer from, but to look for the emotional energy from Gareth and to defend herself from a band of rowdy hooligans with a blast of elemental wind. So she's turning into like Storm from X-Men. And inside the stadium, they find Gareth standing on the pitch, surrounded by Monster Quest creatures, including a fire demon who's incinerating 2 of the 3 stewards running towards Gareth. And Jack easily convinces the survivor that the police should keep everyone out until his team has dealt with the situation.
Yeah, speaking as I'm a volunteer steward rather than a paid steward, but that would not require much persuasion or explanation. But yes, that's fine. Because like tomorrow, on the day of recording this, I am going to be stewarding a match that's going to be live on television. I hope this bodes well.
To say the book's coming to life. We're already characters in it, so
yeah, I know. Okay, blimey. Don't watch ITV. Okay, fine.
And without the emotional energy of the crowd to draw upon, Gareth begins drawing on the stadium's electrical grid instead, and Tosh and Brigstock head for the press gallery to cut the power. Jack tries to get close enough to Gareth to shoot him, but Gareth has now fallen completely under the machine's influence, and the stadium is being transformed into the image of another world, complete with alien flowers, which start spitting poison darts into Jack and kill him before he can react.
Meanwhile, Tosh and Brigstock find a journalist in the press gallery in a state of catatonic shock. This is because they've looked into the eyes of what is known as a Gorgon gecko, which is a creature that doesn't actually exist in the catalogue, but was created out of Gareth's imagination. And a bit of me kind of goes, was this entire book structured around that pun? But anyway, so obviously Gareth has watched Wall Street. So when Gareth sends a pack of bat creatures, known as the Chiroptons, to attack Tosh and Brigstock, Tosh fights them back with her own fears and imagination, using the visualizer to create a giant scary clown that attacks Gareth. And she and Gareth are effectively fighting each other in a real life game of Monster Quests. So it's kind of like a Green Lantern battle. And Brigstock helps her using the visualizer to create a flying unicorn based on an earlier sarcastic comment he's made at the zoo. Jack resurrects himself and then manages to get onto the back of the unicorn and flies over the pitch on the unicorn and shoots Gareth in the head. That's quite a sequence. And the terraforming process has opened up like a giant chasm in the pitch, and Gareth's body and the monsters that he's created fall into it, which then closes up. And Brigstock lets go of the visualizer to give Jack a thumbs up, causing him to fall to another one of his deaths when the unicorn blinks out of existence in mid-flight.
Yeah, Jack dies quite a few times during the story.
Yeah, more so than he normally does on telly. But also as well, how does he get out of that one? Because isn't he fallen into... Oh, no, he's not fallen into the crevasse. He's just...
I think he landed on some seats.
Oh, yes.
Because he was like...
Yeah.
He had to like crack his back or something to get it to realign.
Yeah. Okay.
And then later, when the rest of the team celebrates their victory, Jack takes Brigstock out to dinner and finally tells him that his friend Rodri was killed by a weevil. And Brigstock now understands what Torchwood does and why they cover it up, and he asks Jack to let him join the team. Jack promises to consider it if Brigstock gives him the names of the contacts who helped him stalk Torchwood and gather information on them, and Brigstock does so, unaware that Jack has already slipped retcon into his drink, and by tomorrow he will have forgotten that Torchwood ever existed. Which kind of leads me to think, like, what's the point of his character then? Because, like, throughout this entire story, Tasha's talking about how they don't have enough people or manpower to address everything that's happening in Torchwood, and here's someone who gets what they're doing, understands their mission, understands the need for the secrecy.
Yeah.
And Jack still wipes his memory, and that whole subplot just seemed kind of pointless, I guess.
Well, but Torchwood's HR processes are not its strength. So I imagine that their recruitment process, in fact, we know their recruitment processes are somewhat haphazard. We saw that with Gwen. Yeah, so what did you make of Pack Animals?
I had a lot of fun while reading it because it was things happening out of nowhere, and the whole narrative conceit about seeing things from different people's perspectives was cool. And is it Ramashashan or I forget the name of
something like that. Yes, yeah.
The movie that's like that. A Matter of Perspective from Star Trek: The Next Generation also takes that approach. But yeah, it didn't quite come together for me, and there were some kind of unanswered questions and some plot holes and stuff, which we can get into a little bit. But yeah, what were your kind of initial impressions?
I felt this was tonally jarring. Like, there were moments that I guess were supposed to be humorous. You've got moments of like real kind of like unpleasant horror. You've also got playing cards coming to life. And I just couldn't get a handle on it. I would have dropped this if we weren't reading it for this. It's one of my least favourite books we've read in quite some time.
Oh, wow. I didn't dislike it that much.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying about the tonally jarring thing. And if anything, it felt like a Torchwood season 1 episode, which had a
Yes.
lot of those kind of pendulum swings back and forth.
Yeah. And so Charlie Brooker, I think I have said this recently. I can't remember if I said it on here or I said it on the panel. I think I might have said it on the panel. Is that Charlie Brooker said that Torchwood, the first season, was kind of like the children's TV series Postman Pat, as if directed by Quentin Tarantino. And that's how this feels. I mean, you've got a character wandering around called Banana Boat who keeps on popping up in the narrative. Fortunately, like the way that in our summary, we've not been referencing Banana Boat that much, but he keeps on rocking up. He's annoying throughout all of his appearances.
Yeah, his language, like in terms of like how Reese's friends perceive women, very crassly.
Yeah, yeah. And we've also got the absolute horror of a mother and daughter dying, and they don't know that the other one has died, and so leaving behind a widow and a grieving father, like who we don't meet. But I felt for him. I think I felt for him more than the book did.
Well, I think I had a better experience reading it than you did, because I had a lot of fun while reading it, and I didn't think it was anything like earth-shattering, but it felt like a solid adventure.
Okay,
and I feel like it would have made a good episode of the television series.
Yeah.
In some of its set pieces and stuff. But I think where it fails for me is that when you look at it more closely, there's no moral that stood out to me. There's no redeeming life lessons or major revelations or advancements of Gwen and Reese's relationship prior to the wedding. No last minute wedding jitters to overcome. There's no understanding or reconciliation of Gareth and his mother Jennifer. They both just end up dead.
Yeah.
There's no depth to the narrative from a philosophical lens or any social commentary, which some of the better Torchwood episodes did have, which would have elevated it a little bit in my eyes.
Yeah.
And then, like, in terms of plot holes, like, there's still questions about, and it was kind of briefly mentioned, but it's unclear where Octenbright got all this alien catalog technology from in the first place.
Yeah.
I think there was a reference to, is it Henry Parker, who was the evil like millionaire industrialist who was in the Martha stories, and this company was like a leftover from his, but what are they using this technology for? Unfortunately, neither Matt nor Chris were depicted as being terribly bright. And it's like, how were they able to hack into Torchwood or like reverse hack, Tasha's stuff?
Yeah.
Why did Jennifer have so many dull kids, and why did they all work for her?
Yeah.
There were just all these questions that...
Oh, Succession.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole Yanto invisibility stuff, I mean, that was fun, but it was over way too quickly. And as soon as it felt like within a chapter or two, there's not even any like pontification as to whether collectible card games like Magic, The Gathering, or Pokemon or whatever are a good thing or not.
Yeah, it's just a thing to drive the narrative. I don't know, I might have enjoyed it more on television, maybe. Like the mayhem might have been more fun, but I just, it just gave a sense of ick. So
I am glad that Yanto and Jack's relationship was explored a little bit.
Yes.
They had some fun banter. I would have hated if the only like LGBTQ portrayal in the narrative would have been the priest at the beginning. So I'm glad that was there to offset that.
Yeah.
There was, a couple references to Doctor Who with the Hoyks, and I guess Torchwood's taxi service account is in the name of Dr. John Smith.
Yes.
And I'm not going to forget the ending of Captain Jack riding a magical unicorn over a football stadium. Like, that was memorable.
Yeah. And the car and the frozen river, that was fun.
Yeah, running into the tourist boat, yeah.
Yeah. And also feeling Owen's condition from Owen's point of view, and like how, like, as we were saying, like he doesn't have sense of taste or anything like that. And I just felt sorry for Owen, and Owen is a character that I really don't like. So I was like, okay, that's good.
Yeah, and I felt all the members of the team got stuff to do. Like, it felt well balanced in that regard. And Reese got quite a few scenes, and we even had PC Andy stop in for a few cameos. So
yes.
How would you score this?
3.
A 3?
Oh yeah, I hated this.
Oh wow.
So the reason why it is so high is because of like some of the work with Owen. Yeah, I think we're going to be really quite different in our scores.
Yeah, I'm going to give it I would say a solid 7 out of 10.
Okay.
And that was just because I liked the whole going backwards and forwards in the narrative and how those things interconnected.
Yeah.
And I felt like I could visualize like the bus crash and the mall attack and all of those things. And yeah, it's only like once you're done with, you know, like the theme park ride where I feel like, what did I just experience? And, and like another plot hole, like we never learn how these cards draw from the alien catalog. We know that heightened emotions are involved, but where are these creatures being pulled from? Is there an endless supply in the rift? Do they just apparate from an alien zoo? Do they come from a miniscope? Are they just constructed out of imagination, which seems to be implied at the end?
It's a bit of column A, column B, isn't it? Possibly. But yeah.
And I really wish there would have been a non-violent solution that would have happened instead of going in guns blazing, but this is Torchwood, so I guess that's appropriate. But, you know, Gareth being possessed and shot by a bullet in the head from Jack just felt unsatisfying and anticlimactic for a resolution. And they also couldn't save his mother, which felt like a bit of a defeat.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine for the team to have a very hard-won victory. Of the 2 Torchwood novels we've read, this is where you're going to say, Chris, we've read 3, but I think we've only read 2. The Twilight Streets is going to... that resonated with me a lot more than this. But I also think, and again, this is with me, with my kind of like British sporting knowledge, I think I might have enjoyed it slightly more if it had been like a rugby match rather than an entirely fictitious football team, because like whenever Cardiff United were appearing, I was like, oh, come on, is this going somewhere? And I think I might have also, one of the reasons why I marked it low might be because it didn't feel like the Cardiff that I have been to. It just felt like almost like a Marvel Universe city in which just mayhem just happened. But I was just like, yeah, this doesn't feel like a place. But it's interesting. It's one of the things I always find fascinating about having these discussions with you. Is because like we have these. It's very rare that we're at kind of like such differing scales on a score. But it's just like, yeah, we bring different viewpoints. Because I had slightly noticed the scenes kind of like overlapping and stuff, but like when you brought it out, it's like, yeah, that's kind of clever. I like that. However, you've got player cards coming to life.
With that whole overlapping thing, like it was good at the beginning, but at some point it should stop overlapping and they should all come together and like continue on. And it almost felt like it was doing the narrative a disservice because it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it didn't feel like we were making as much progress, because then it's like, oh no, there's another time jump that I have to, you know, reset my brain for.
That can work, because like we're watching the Netflix series Chaos at the moment, with a K, that features Billy Piper, so I might mention this again in a future episode. And for that, you are often seeing events happening in one episode, and then you see the same event happen in the distance of a future episode, and so there I find that kind of fun. But here I just like, but I think it's just because some of these events are so horrific, and I'm like, oh no, we're going back to this again.
Or another show I remember that did that was Arrested Development season 4.
Okay. Yeah.
The revival or whatever, where it was kind of like that nested narrative where you're seeing things from different perspectives. But that was so unsuccessful that they released a different version of season 4 where it was all edited in sequence too. So.
Oh well.
All right. Well, onwards and upwards, I guess.
Yes. Oh, we can only get better. But you know what we've got coming. But anyway, we're not quite there yet. We are at the feedback. So let's see and listen to what people have said.
So it looks like we've got a couple of emails.
Yes, we have indeed. So we heard from Simon Clark, the author of The Dalek Factor that we read last month. And Simon dropped us a line and said that he really did enjoy our podcast, and he thought that our conversation about the Dalek Factor was very insightful. Bless him. And blessed on an expert knowledge and love of Doctor Who. When Steve Tose, who was our reader for last month, had told Simon that he'd done the reading, Simon hadn't anticipated there would be an element of dramatisation and sound effects. And he thought that the Dalek's ancient corroded voice generator produced a lovely sound. And all in all, he wanted to hear us render the entire novella as an audiobook. In fact, I'd say you, Matt, because you're the person who does all of the wonderful work on those things. Yeah, thank you. I thought you did a really good job.
Oh, thank you.
So Simon said that he was really delighted that we enjoyed the book so much. But by gosh, it's 20 years old. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that, Simon. I'm sorry about time. It was lovely. Lovely. But I mean, I did assure him when I said, we've got a podcast coming. I did say to him, look, we really liked it. So, like, if you listen to the podcast, we are not going to say bad things because, like, I'm not that kind of guy.
And I'm glad he recognized, too, that we come from a place of loving Doctor Who and we want, and that's where we try to center ourselves in terms of our discussions and stuff. And So thank you, Simon. That was a fantastic email.
Yeah, but please don't tell Peter Anghelides to listen.
Oh. We also got an email from Adrian in Australia, and Adrian writes, "Hi, Chris and Matt. Longtime listener here. Love the podcast.
Cool.
I'm lucky enough to have collected all the Virgin New Adventures, Missing Adventures, and Benny books as they were released in the 1990s, and most of the EDAs, and he's finishing his collection now. And he said it's great to hear our thoughts on the books, and they look forward to our podcast every month.
Cool.
And listening to our latest episode, we had talked about the upcoming release of Hoodle by Roland Hall.
Yes.
And it made Adrian think of the Hoodle website, which gives daily puzzles in Wordle style to guess the Doctor Who episode. And he shared the link with us. And I have played a few Hoodles in the past. And a part of me wonders if the BBC picked that title for their Doctor Who book in order to preserve copyright on it. As opposed to a third-party, website running the Wordle sort of clone. But fun fact, I ordered the Hoodle book, but it has yet to arrive. So perhaps that'll be a future show and tell for me as well.
Yeah, perhaps.
Thank you, Adrian and Simon, for both writing in. It was great to get your feedback.
So over on Facebook, we have heard from Jay Barry. Jay has been commenting about pack animals. And Jay says that they remember reading this one in high school and enjoying it. So that's cool. Still just reminds me, the cover doesn't actually happen, does it?
I don't think Gwen meets the tiger.
No, was walking on ice in the city centre, and there's what looks like lightning forking left, right, and centre.
And then she's got the interlace closed circuit monitor behind her too, which is a reference to the traveling through those pathways.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cover is a nice amalgamation of things that happen in the book, just not all at the same time or together.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good cover. I enjoyed the cover more than the book. Anyway, right.
We also heard from Matt Phillips on Twitter, who says he absolutely adores the Tellus novella series and was excited for our episode last month.
Cool.
And he calls the Tellus range an often overlooked but always intriguing nook of the expanded Doctor Who publishing fiction metaverse.
Yeah.
Doctor Who in the Mid-Journey tweets that they love the art on the frontispiece for the Dalek Factor in particular.
Yeah, it's stunning.
And says of the Tellus range that they were all great books. I don't think I liked Frayed.
Were they?
And then what was the Foreign Devils also was John Mizowick says that the Tellus novella range was a wonderful idea with fantastic results and asks whether Big Finish could revive the line for audio adaptations, considering that they're now out of print. And finally, we heard from Keith Say on Blue Sky, who said of our recent Telos episode, "Really enjoyed the podcast, thanks. I've never read any of the Telos books, but they sound rather good."
Sometimes. Certainly, I enjoyed that pair more than the first pair that we did. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think Time and Relative is still probably my favorite, the Kim Newman one. But yeah, they're all...
Yeah, the Dalek Factor is pretty special.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for all the feedback on our multitude of social media channels.
Yes. Cool. Right. And so, Matt, I think this brings us to the stage proceedings where you let the listener and me know what we're going to be reading. Thanks.
So, yeah, we are kicking off a brand new Doctor cycle. And we ended our last Doctor cycle with an 8th Doctor pick.
Yes.
And I'd hate for Paul McGann to feel neglected, like his Doctor was some sort of an afterthought. Yes. So we're staying with the 8th Doctor to kick off our new Doctor cycle.
Cool.
And while I'm very familiar with the 8th Doctor as he's been depicted in audios and novels, one medium I haven't really experienced him in is comics. So that's where we're headed. So for December, we'll be reading the first of 4 collected volumes of Doctor Who magazine comic strips featuring the 8th Doctor, which is called Endgame.
Yes, okay.
Which was first published as a collected edition back in October of 2005, which features, appropriately enough, 8 comic stories and a short story exclusive to this collection.
Cool.
So we will be reading that for December.
Excellent. Oh, cool. That's cool.
And I have no idea if there's any holiday-themed content in there. I'd be surprised if there was, but
yes.
Yeah, it feels good to start with the 8th Doctor.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I am looking forward to that. That's good fun. And not to be confused with the novel Endgame, which is very different.
Correct.
Yes, the Doctor Who novel. But yeah, nice to be reading comics. Nice to be diving into some of the Doctor Who magazines. Oh, fantastic. Cool. I am looking forward to that.
Well, until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
This is probably the most that we have differed in our opinion of the book, isn't it?
In a good while, I would say.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't think this was fantastic or anything.
No.
But I had fun reading it, and that's kind of what I base a lot of my reading on.
Yeah, that's fair. Personally, I had found it hard to finish a book. Let's just check that that's all going fine. Bing, bing.